Heavy hands, a little more detail in the postures. So, you should be able to see me here. So, the very first posture, Taoist awaits the dawn, is a lot like standing post. Okay, the only difference, of course, is that I don't have anything going on with the arms. Other than, it's like I have a golf ball under each armpit. Okay, so I'm not here, I'm letting the blood and the lymph flow easily through here so they're not constricted. I want to keep my hands, I'm not going to be able to actually do this and talk. I want to keep my hands as natural as I can. So whatever your hand naturally falls into, you just leave it there while the golf ball's under the arms. And then if you haven't done a standing practice, I thought I might go through this a little more detailed. I'll do each movement like this. So feet about shoulder width apart, and that is measured actually by your shin bone. Your shin bone, if you were to twist, you can't see my feet, so if you were to twist and put your knee down on your opposite foot, you'll be exactly one shoulder width apart for yourself. Now, I'm going to just give kind of some of the, there's this whole bunch of things you can pay attention to in Jangtuan, depending on what you're doing with it. In this case, for Taoist Awaits the Dawn, we're just relaxing. That's the big trick here, okay? So I'm going to start off looking for alignments. So the first thing I'm going to do is ask some questions, right? I'm looking for different relationships in my body and making sure that they're in the right place. So are my ears above my shoulders? So one way of looking at that is, am I crunching forward with my head? Okay, pull your head back so your ears are above your shoulders. Is Bai Hui, the top of my head, pointing upwards? Is the back of my neck, the jade pillow, open? That's accomplished by pulling back the chin. Okay, so I pull back the chin and I lift up the back of my head, or the very top of my head. In Tai Chi, they talk about being suspended but from above. Same idea, they're trying to open up all the cervical vertebrae. Okay, so my ears go back above my shoulders, my chin tucks in, my tongue touches the upper palate of the roof of my mouth, just behind the front teeth. Now, once we get down that, we're down to the neck. Is my neck not only open, but is it relaxed? Am I tightening to try to get into a good position, or am I in a nice relaxed position? We're always looking for less muscular engagement. Okay, we're trying to get as much of our body to release as possible for these postures. So that's what I'm doing awaiting the dawn, right? Now, my shoulders. Are my scapula, my shoulder blades, are they pulled downwards towards my waist? This is an important one because when it comes to the chest, one of the, again, Tai Chi, sink the chest and pluck the back upwards. Sinking the chest tends to make people do this, okay? And while the chest can be lowered, it tends to make people round their shoulders over, and then the scapula end up driving upwards. And it's actually not good for the shoulder joint, okay? So you want to open the heart, so it's like I'm pulling the nipples apart, pull my scapula down my back towards my waist, and I'm trying to seat my shoulders into their cups, essentially. A shoulder joint looks kind of like a cup with a ball in it. Okay? Now, here I'm going to try to relax as much muscular tension as I can, and that's the sinking of the chest part. So once I've got this, my ears are above my shoulders, my chin is above my belly button. I try to pull the scapula down and relax all of the muscularity here in the chest. Okay? Continuing down the arms, I'm going to keep this idea of a ball under the armpits, but the rest of the arm is meant to just hang. So I'm not holding my arms out into a kind of a weird, awkward position and getting engagement. I want to have them hang at my sides, but just envisioning this small kind of pressurized opening here. So the spine, Da Jue is the C7 vertebrae, the big bone back here, okay, is Da Jue above your tailbone. That prevents any kind of stuff like this. These are the kind of things that chiropractors look for when you walk in, is if you're offline, right? That's what they're trying to diagnose. So you're trying to self-diagnose here. Is my spine vertical? And vertical is a hard thing to do, really. Everybody thinks of vertical as straight, and those are very different things. I want to just make sure my spine is stacked above itself, okay, as best as I can. Mingmen, or the lower back, the curvature in their lower back, you want to flatten it out slightly, and the way to do that is by tucking the pelvis under. Now this is another one that people tend to have a hard time with. I don't know if you can see me very well, but what people tend to do is they tend to really over tuck their tailbone, and they end up in this kind of weird posture, right? Gets your belly to stick out, all that kind of stuff. It's not like that. If you think about your tailbone, when your back is normally arched, your tailbone sort of points out behind your body, very, very slightly. You want to just push it downwards so that it's pointing between your heels. Okay, so it's a very, I mean, I'm changing the movement now. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a very, very small movement. That gets us down into the waist. Now, any of the muscle in the waist that doesn't need to be engaged, you need to let it go. But at the same time, this isn't like letting it go. I still have to maintain my posture. So when you use the word relax and things like standing qigong, it's a difficult word. There's a lot of difficult words in English about this. But relax doesn't mean like in a puddle on your couch. Okay? It means holding a proper posture and structure, but with no more muscular tension than is necessary. So I'm going to relax as much of the muscularity in my waist and my hips and my lower back as I can. That gets us down into the pelvis. Now, the pelvis, we've already tipped it very slightly to try to get our tailbone to point between our ankles, between our heels. And then you're going to reach kind of down with your mind through the entirety of your legs. And you're going to check for some alignments. Are your hips, right, the top, and I mean the hip joint, right above the top of your leg, is it above your ankles? Is it above your feet? Okay, so if you have people with knock-kneed or bow-legged, that's not going to be the case, right? So you want to put, from your perspective, if I were to look down, I should see that my hip is in line with my knee, which is in line with my foot. That way my weight is being evenly distributed through the skeletal structure to the arch of the foot, okay? Once we get to the foot, then we're going to look at where the weight falls through the foot. So there's something called the three nails. The three nails are the heel, the ball of the foot, and the opposite side of the foot, the outsides of the feet. And those 3 points should be equally distributing the weight. Okay, so if you feel all of it in your heels, you need to bring your weight a little bit forward. If it's all in your toes, you need to bring your weight a little bit backward. It's something to just kind of play with. Okay, in drunken boxing, when we train it, we draw little circles with our feet. You can see what it does to my body. And that way I can get acquainted with the 3 nails, and I can find where the center point of the foot is. The next part, I'm not sure you can really see it, but it's the dang. And the dang means the archway of the legs. So I'm not standing in a way that looks like this, okay? I'm going to open up my hip joint, and I'm going to do that just by bending the knees slightly and pushing the knees outwards very, very slightly, like I'm sitting on a medicine ball. So if I sit on the medicine ball, as I compress it, it'll open up sideways. So now I've got a roundness here, and if you look at my arms, when I've got the golf ball under the armpit, this is mirroring the archway of the dang. Okay, so it's not this, which is what a lot of people's legs look like. Okay, it's like that, and then my legs and my arms mirror one another. Once I've gone through my whole body like that, and the structural alignments are in place, then I want to look for unnecessary tension. So, starting at the top of the body, literally just take your time, take a few breaths, go through from the top to the bottom, looking at how much muscular contraction there is and how much you can let go of. So usually there's a bunch in the face, there's usually a bunch in your neck and in your shoulders, there's usually your buttocks are a big problem. For a lot of people, their lower back is a big problem. And all the way through the legs, there's little muscle groups that you should be able to get to let go. Once you've done all of that checklist, that's when you start preparing yourself, if you will. So the way I do this is I'll settle into this place, I'll check my alignments, I'll check through the body once about muscular tension and if there's too much of it. Then I start my breaths. So in heavy hands, you do about 8 to 12 breaths. Now that can be a really long period of time, depending on how slowly you breathe, okay? Biggest thing is breathe in a way that's not stressful. So don't breathe really, really slow because you're like, I'm doing Qigong and I'm going to try to breathe slow. And the next thing you know, you're breathing so slow that you're, starting to get lightheaded or things like that. It's not good for you. Find out what your natural breath pace is and study that. Work in that area, okay? If you know Buddhist breathing or Taoist breathing, work with those. If you don't know them already, I'm not going to do it in this video. So I actually have other videos on YouTube about them. Just take your time and do your 8 or 12 counts, okay? So that's Taoist awaits the dawn. And you're really just preparing yourself. There's no serious mental intention here as far as lines of intent or innervations. I'm just chilling. I'm trying to release as much tension as I can before I start the Qigong. Taoist awaits the dawn.